Hello all, we'll start in a few minutes. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the February 2024 meeting of the CAG, of Eastside Coastal Resiliency. I'm flying solo today. Paula is out, so I'm going to hand the meeting over to Desiree.
I'm just finding my unmute and start video. Sorry about that.
No worries.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, you can see the presentation okay? Great. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight for our 42nd meeting. My name is Desiree Gazzo. I am here with HNTB Lero, the Program Management Construction Management Group, overseeing construction of the Eastside Coastal Resiliency and Coastal Resiliency projects for DDC. I'm here with our DDC and agency colleagues, and we are going to give you an update on Project Area 1, Project Area 2, and Parallel Conveyance tonight. So the focus area topics that we're going to cover are construction progress approach. We'll have the AQM updates for environment, a quick little update on hiring compliance, and then we'll have questions at the end. It is a relatively short presentation this week. Again, just the same on the construction progress approach of what we typically have. This is the full flyer. I believe last time we just had to save the date of the quarterly information session. So that will be on Wednesday, March 13th from 10 a.m. to 11. If anyone needs copies of this flyer, please reach out to us, reach out to our CCLs. We'd be more than happy to print out as many as you want or post where you need. The Spanish and Chinese translations are in progress, so we should have those by tomorrow. We ask that people pre-register, though it is not a requirement. You could just sign on the day of, and we're going to have several local unions, Local 731, Local 1010, the New York City District Council of Carpenters, Building Skills, and Workforce One present on the call, and they will be talking about the opportunities that they have, how to effectively evaluate interests and skills before exploring union membership, different pathways that are available, and then programs that are available to assist with union enrollment. So we're really excited about this event, and we ask that you please pass it along. We could provide the link in the chat to the flyer that's on the website, so that way you could pass it along to folks that you know that might be interested. For the overview of contract, not much new has been added. We have some photos of the Esplanade construction that is moving along. And then for PA2, gate 7 rather, will be installed, is scheduled to be installed in March 2024, and then gate 8 is scheduled to be installed in April of this year. Those are the last two gates in PA2, so we are very excited to have them in. For parallel conveyance, which we'll talk about a little bit later, the contractor is doing prep work for the interceptor gate chamber and building construction in Corlears Park, and the other items are kind of ongoing items that we've discussed before. For construction activities, again, many of the work items are moving forward. We've updated the map to show the parallel conveyance work in Corlears Park. Again, this month, we are expecting to have that full closure of the passive lawn for the staging of the Delancey Bridge. If that doesn't happen this month, it might move to next month, but we'll certainly let you know about that in advance. Here are some photos of the Esplanade construction. So this one on the left, and on the right, is the parapet installation. So that is essentially the edge of the Esplanade where you would then kind of look to. So that's very exciting that is being constructed. There's some other photos here on the right. They are really making progress with the Esplanade. It's great to see. And this is a beautiful day here on the right. And then for the Delancey Street Bridge foundation reinforcement, so this is along Delancey Street, and then this is one of the Delancey Street Bridge piers as well. So for the what we've heard slide, for the fireboat house updates, the Section 106 analysis of alternatives is ongoing. If you remember, at the last CAG meeting or the one before that, we kind of outlined the steps for that process. So please refer back to that if you need to. The CAG written questions that you submitted are being reviewed by City Hall, and we will share the responses with the CAG once City Hall provides them. In the end, City Hall will decide how to proceed with the fireboat house based on the alternatives analysis, and consulting parties will have the opportunity to comment on the alternatives analysis and the programmatic agreement. The public will not, and that is that process. For PA2 construction progress, Stuyvesant Cove Park is open in Area 1 and Area 2. The Greenway remains open, and the connection to the East River Park is also open. And then here are some of the photos of the planting. So we're looking forward to the spring. to show better pictures of the planted area. Here are some more photos of the floodgate number 8 east column formwork, and then the flood wall reinforcement and formwork near the Con Ed generation plant. So a lot of these images, it's hard to see. A lot of the site was in Cove Park work. It was easier to see from, a pedestrian view, but these you can't as much. And then for the AQM update, these are the locations again for PA1. There's 16 air quality monitors. For the month of January, most of the alerts again were fairly short. I think this is the only one on the 29th that was kind of a longer duration. But again, the dust suppression techniques were applied as they were for the others as well. And again, as per usual, they're mostly around Montgomery Street to Jackson Street and less kind of as you head north on the project. For PA2, there are 4 AQM monitoring locations as shown on the map. For PA2, again, there were less than there have been in the past, and they were again relatively short. One or a couple were unknown offsite activities, and then there were a few where that were on site where dust suppression techniques were applied. And then again, these will be posted both in the CAG presentation and on the environmental page in the CAG slides there. So for parallel conveyance at location 1, which is now Jackson Street, Water Street, and Corlears Park, we have ongoing utility relocation, and then the prep work for the excavation for the South Interceptor Gate Chamber. Lewis locations 2 and locations 3, which is Lewis Street and Delancey Street, and Bruce and Delancey Street, we have ongoing utility relocation. At location 4, there's some test pit activities. And then at location 5, there's Con Ed performing abatement work there. These are some of the construction photos from PC. So the first picture here is the staging and installation of the tree guards in Corlears Park. This is the conduit, its installation in Jackson Street. I personally think it's amazing how uniform they get all those pipes to lay, which is a very nice pattern. And then the last picture here is the manhole installation on Delancey Street North. And that's it for the presentation today. Again, relatively short, but we're here to take questions if anyone has anything.
All right, I don't see anyone's hand raised, but if you do have a question and you're not able to raise your hand, you can just unmute yourself and ask.
I see Catherine and Diane,
Okay.
Tara.
Okay, now I see, yes. Okay, so I'll start with Diane.
Hi, Desiree. I was wondering if you could go back to the pictures of the Esplanade in construction.
I can. Here we go.
It's that one. Yeah. So this concrete wall here, what did you call that?
The parapet.
The parapet. Okay. So is the Esplanade coming up level to that, and then there will be a railing on top of the parapet?
Yes.
Okay. So it'll be, like it is now, just higher.
Yeah, I believe the same rail will continue from like PA2. We could double check on that.
Okay.
That is understanding.
And do you know how much of that Esplanade is being constructed? I can see this is down below the fireboat house. Like how long the stretch is, like
Oh,
maybe how many blocks or what streets it's between or something like that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think a good amount of it, at least from the bridge south, has
Mhm.
been constructed, but we could certainly get maybe in the next CAG presentation or at CB3, maybe we could just make a graphic that shows kind of the limits of the, you know, this kind of the base of the Esplanade and then where we are with the parapet installation and kind of what are the next steps for that at CB3 so that you could see kind of the progress.
Yeah, that would be great because obviously, as you know, the Esplanade is probably the
Yes.
most popular amenity in East River Park. So, and I asked about this specifically because I think we had hoped that sometime this spring the construction team would be able to give you and Parker more insight into what amenities will open when in the South End. So far, all we've been able to talk about is ball fields 1 and 2. And so I'm wondering if
We
that's
didn't
something,
mention them today.
but
I said we
no,
didn't mention them today because we've been mentioning them at every other CAG meeting.
exactly. We mentioned them now.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, you know, maybe if that can be at CB3 or the next meeting, that would be great because that's where we get a lot of questions. Because as you know, not to be repetitive, but only a few people at a time can use the ball fields. So I think the main interest in is in when like the walking paths and that sort of thing will be available to the public.
Yeah, we will
Okay.
certainly find out. I don't know if we'll have that information for next month, but I know, I think again, we can certainly get an update on the Esplanade and then we will of course bring that back about the paths and things, which we do ask you know, for because we know that that's important.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
and Catherine, who is substituting this month for Wendy.
Yeah, just pretend I'm Wendy. Hi. Quick questions. You did just mention ball fields 1 and 2. Are they going to be open for use this spring or this summer? What's the ETA on that?
That it's still on schedule.
Which is
Oh, for the end of May.
end of, okay, great. And I did have a couple questions. You mentioned the fireboat house, and did the city hall give you any idea when they might have a decision on that?
No, no.
No. Okay. Is
There
there
were,
some,
I think there were review periods kind of loosely outlined in the other slide, but we don't have any concrete dates of when decisions will be made.
okay. Is something being done for the Lower East Side Ecology Center in the interim? I know
Well,
originally
there,
they were talking about some kind of trailer or something.
yeah, I think because there's no interim right now, right? Like everything is dependent on that decision. So once that decision is made, then there will be decisions made off of that decision.
Okay. And then my last question was, I see we're looking at the parapet and some of the walls. I've gotten a bunch of questions from people at East River who are looking out at the construction, and there's a lot of graffiti going on with the walls that they see. Uh,
Mhm.
Something being done about that, or do you have proposals for getting rid of it or covering it up or anything like that?
Yeah, they have been, it's been in discussion again in PA2. They ended up covering up the walls with plastic to prevent the graffiti. And then if there was graffiti, they would be able to, you know, keep replacing the plastic instead of having to keep cleaning the wall. So I think now that it is kind of becoming more of an issue at PA1, they are talking through the best kind of the best scenario to deal with that. So it is something that's definitely being discussed. And hopefully for the CB3 meeting, we'll have a better response for you. But yes, we received 1 or 2 inquiries about that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Christine?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so no surprise here, but I have a question about the fireboat house. The analysis, do you know when that should be done? I mean, is that a 1 month process, a 2 month process, and who is the consultant who's doing that?
I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna, Kristen, oh, is Kristen on the phone? I'm not sure if Kristen knows. I don't want to say something incorrectly, but we'll double back on who is doing it, unless Parker looks it up from the last CAG meeting, because I think it was in the last one. But we could find that out for you. But as far as timeline, I don't recall there being a specific date when that is again going to be completed.
All right. And then my next comment is when we had a meeting with the mayor's office, DDC and parks, we both discussed the fireboat house and the compost yard. And then the compost yard, the city had presented us with a conceptual design. And since then, I have requested from Parks to get a better drawing, a detailed drawing of that conceptual design. And we also had a meeting scheduled to discuss that with the city team, with the designers. And unfortunately, that meeting got canceled, and I have not gotten any really communications when this meeting could be rescheduled. I've been reaching out to Parks, and there just does not seem to be much of progress with that. And we do have real concerns about the compost yard, and they're really technical. I don't want to bore anybody to death here, but just so you understand what this is really about, is like in that in the deck, there was this one slide with the design, and then on the side notes, it was marked that we have a screener, and the screener needs to be moved if you want to use it. And the screener we cannot just move when we use it. It needs to be staged in a space where we have access all the time. It's also an electric screener, so we need to hardwire it into the electricity. And in the design, it was like it should be gas powered or something like that. And what we really need to have, and I think that's a discussion that we can have, whether we know what's happening with the fireboat house or not, is a discussion about how this compost yard is going to function. Because there is a promise to build it, and there is a promise to build it by the end, that it's finished by the end of ESCR, which is in 2026. And so far, we only have a conceptual design, and we had no opportunity yet to really give factual input into what works in this design and what doesn't. And I would really urge any of the city team that's on this call to get to the table with us to discuss that, because it I don't understand why this process all of a sudden. I mean, I understand why, but I don't think it's fair that process all of a sudden came to a screeching halt. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. We could bring this back to the greater team.
Also, I'm going to add to your question about the consultants. I talked to Jeff, and it is AKRF consultants, but we don't have an exact date when the process will be done.
Great. That's what I thought it was. Kristen, thank you so much for confirming. Yeah. I thought it was the design team that was moving along with the analysis of alternatives. Thank you so much.
Yep. Robin?
Hi. Hi, Desiree. I have a question and then an ask. My question is there any coordinated efforts between your agency and the Parks Department to announce the opening of the ball fields, and to make sure, I guess this is really Parks Department, it starts to get them involved, that the uses of it is first and foremost community groups and youth groups, before, you know, suddenly everybody else is getting permits. So I wanted to ask you about that. And I don't know if you still have your community outreach people, but maybe we need to get Parks on another call with us or in a meeting with us as well. And my ask is, can we get another tour of the site?
Great. So Robin, we could bring that back to Parks about the permits. I believe that was brought up again a couple of months ago, that about the local priority. I know that does come up, you know, every couple of months, so we will again bring that back to them, because they do handle the permitting process. I believe they do have, you know, certain groups that again were using ball fields, you know, 3 and 4 and other ball fields that, you know, will be using the field. But again, we'll certainly bring that back to Parks. I don't want to speak on their behalf. And then the request for the another tour, we could certainly facilitate that again. If, you know, and again, I guess maybe the CAG can maybe talk amongst themselves after to see if you want to wait, you know, until it's a little bit warmer, maybe next month, or, you know, you want to do something sooner, and we can again see when our design teams are available and, you know, make sure all the stars align. But if you want to again get together as a group and decide what month might be good for that, then we could certainly, you know, pass that request along again.
Thanks, Desiree. I just want to go back again to the communication, I guess, about the ball fields opening. It's 2 months from now or something, May, and I don't know what your community engagement people are doing about that, but that would be helpful to really, you know, begin that process with the community that, hey, we're letting you know this is happening 2 months from now, blah, blah. You know, maybe there's some kind of a, you know, exciting thing or event that can happen there, you know, I don't
Yeah.
know. Thanks.
Yep, I mean, that is going to be the first, you know, the first big piece of the park open. And again, I know we've had ribbon cuttings for PA2 and things like that, but I think, yes, that is a very good point, and we will start, you know, coordinating that with really Parks and the city team, because it is a, you know, a multi-agency effort.
Right. I'm not sure who this is, but whoever is on iPhone. Has their hand raised, if they're able to unmute themselves. All right, I'm gonna move on to Michael. Oh wait, oh, looks like iPhone.
Hi. Yes, hi. Hi, sorry, this is Tony Rivera from OLS Little League. Apologies, having all sorts of Zoom issues today. Couldn't even put my name, it disappeared somehow. But the question that I had was regarding Corlear's Hook. When would the Corlear's Hook ball field be available? This just by way of background, OLS Little League had Corlear's Hook, had 1 and 2, had Field 5. All those fields are no longer available to us, at least early part of the spring. So we're scrambling for permits now, and very keen to know when some of the ball fields will start becoming available again.
Yeah, right now Corlear's Hook is scheduled for 2025. I believe it was kind of mid to end 2025. So it won't be for another, you know, until next year.
And
But if it's a little league, you should be able to still use that field. It was more the adult leagues that were going to be displaced.
Corlear's
Did Parks say that?
sorry, is Corlear's available for the Little Leagues, or you're saying that other parts of the park are available?
Corlear's should be available for little leagues, just not adult leagues.
Okay, and so when will that, as of the spring, they told us Corlear's is not available this spring.
Interesting. Okay, we could
Okay.
circle back with them too. It was our understanding that it would be available for little leagues because the field was just being reduced in size, but not for adult league.
Okay,
But
no,
we'll follow up.
that's encouraging news if that's the case. But we had permits, longstanding permits that were not accepted when we did the permitting process. So that led us to believe that they weren't available this spring. But appreciate if you can look into that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Desiree, just to say, Tony and I spoke before the meeting, and I'm in the middle of drafting an email to Parks about this as well. So maybe, so I'll just loop you in on this, so then maybe
Yeah.
we can get clarification.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
please copy myself and Parker on it, so that way, we're all on the same page with what the response is.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That-
Michael?
Hey, Desiree. I have a question for you about the boathouse. You mentioned that the consulting parties would be able to provide comment, not the public. Can you remind me, or do you know who are the consulting parties? I know that Friends of Corlears Hook Park was a consulting party on the archaeological work. Does that mean we're also a consulting party on this? Is that transfer? Is it the same thing?
I believe you were on the letter as well. I believe Friends of Corlears Hook Park was also on that letter. And I don't have the full list of other consulting parties, but we could certainly get that for you.
I
Thanks.
have it, Desiree, and they are on the list.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
Is that larger list able to be shared? I have a feeling that might be a follow-up question for folks.
Yeah, we can share the larger list. We'll circle back and add that onto the email.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Right. Are there any more questions? All right. I don't see any other hands raised. Again, if you're having issues with your hand raise function, feel free to just take yourself off mute and jump in with your.
Christine's hand.
Oh, Christine.
Yeah, I've been going up to Stuyvesant Cove, and I'm still seeing the tracks for the floodgates being filled with asphalt, and I was just wondering what your process is there, and when, because yeah, the infrastructure is there, but if there's a storm tomorrow, how are you going to move them? I'm just wondering what the process is there and when we could expect to have fully functioning flood protection.
Sure. So the asphalt is a temporary solution. The design team is working on a final solution. So first of all, the flood protection isn't fully complete until the gates and the flood walls are fully installed. So for PA2, we're still they still have the installation of gate 8 and gate 9. If again there was a need to deploy the gates, that decision needs to be made. I believe it's like there's several days before the flood protection, before deployment, that decision needs to be made. So there is enough time, should there need to be, for them to remove the asphalt and close the gates. The flood protection will be fully functional at the end of the project. And again, when they have a final solution, they will remove the asphalt.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is Tony. Regarding the work being done along the Delancey Street, where the bridge is going to be erected, what is the timeline for it? I actually have my car parked right alongside where all that work is being done, so I'm very curious to see how much longer we're going to have all that activity.
It is going to be, we can get a better estimate, but I believe it is going to be continuing, into, still into this year. We can get a better idea of the exact work activities, in this area and what that timeline is. But there still is a decent amount of work that needs to be done here. So we'll continue into through the spring, and potentially into the summer, but we can get back to you on a better kind of timeline for this area.
So what is the access to ball fields 1 and 2? Is that going to be along the Corliers Hook side of the park to get over to the other side of the highway?
Yeah, that's still being, again, that the access, which, I know Diane asked about earlier, that is still being reviewed and finalized. So we don't have the specifics on that, right now.
Okay, thanks.
Catherine?
And yep.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just listening. I was a little confused. The asphalt is actually being put in the tracks of the gates intentionally? Is there a problem that is it steadying them, or why is it being added?
Well, the tracks present a bit of a trip hazard because
Ah,
they're fairly deep. So they are, they're working on a temporary solution or on a final solution. So that way they don't have to put the asphalt in.
okay. And so that I assume means that if you're expecting a storms and it's thought to be bad enough, someone will be out there removing the asphalt?
Correct. But again, the flood protection isn't fully installed yet, so
Right,
it won't be deployed.
right. When is that going to be complete?
Well, for PA2, the project will be completed in 2025, and then for PA1, it's 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Desiree.
Thank you.
And thank you. Oh, Catherine, one more?
No, it just went up when it was supposed to go down. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. So yeah, if there aren't any other questions, we will just move on to the CAG only portion. So thank you all, agency representatives for being here, and we'll move over to the CAG portion. I guess we'll just start up in 2 minutes. So 4:42, we'll start the CAG only portion.
Thanks, Desiree.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Hello. So just picking up from any of the updates that, from the updates that we just received from Desiree, apart from waiting to hear back with regard to our questions that we submitted for the fire boathouse, are there any other concerns that came up during the presentation that you all would like to discuss or think about next steps?
I was just thinking, this is Diane, I was just thinking about Robin's request to do a walkthrough.
Yeah, that was my next.
I
But
was
go ahead.
wondering, in addition to better weather, because I'm sure it's super muddy over there, I was also wondering if it might be a good idea to wait until after we find out what's happening to the fireboat house. Because I think it would be good to try to understand, particularly if they say that they need to demolish it, what kind of alternatives they're offering and what that would look like in the context of the park and not just, on a diagram. So I think that they predicted that getting this analysis done would take around 30 days. So I'm assuming it'll be ready fairly soon. But maybe we could time it for after that, just in case. We have to think about, what the other options for the Ecology Center are.
What do you all think, Robin? I see your hands raised.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about actually, opening up new areas of the park and what I'm to make sure that the lines of communication don't stop there. In other words, we open the park, we open the ball fields, but I think there should be a way that we can still, the community can still voice, a way we can let them know what's not working or what's, if in the park, because this is a brand new park, right? So I'm just thinking about like May, they're going to open the ball fields, which is, 2 months from now, which is great. But I'm wondering if we can continue to keep that dialogue going. In other words, as we're thinking about community engagement, as we're thinking about using these new facilities, because we don't really know what it's going to be like. And we don't know what it's going to feel like or really look like. Does that make sense, kind of what I'm saying?
So you're thinking that you would like to wait until some of the fields are reopened before we do this? Because that's going to be much
No, I'm saying I would want to do a site visit before, but once the park opens, I don't want them to think, okay, we're done, let's move on. That, we still need to, I think we need to make sure that the new sites that what they've built is workable and is fulfilling the things that they said, or that things work, and that might be changes might be need to made. There might need to be improvements on, or, things might not be working, and how can we make sure that that conversation continues? In other words, we're monitoring the building of this park all these years, and they're telling us what they're building. They open up these ball fields. What if, something is not right? And how do we as a community go back to them and say, we noticed X, Y, and Z. Can you come and correct that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think we can, I'm not to say we can have infinite walkthroughs, but we can definitely do more. And I think it's just thinking, since you've made this request now, they're open to doing one. I think it's just a matter of figuring out when we would want to do one in the immediate future. And then thinking about with other, as it gets warmer and other parts of the park become available, thinking about that, like another interim walkthrough to kind of address those pieces. Because yeah, I think like those, I think fields 1 and 2 open, they said end of May. So then that might, that would put us I think we can definitely do. I think none of us would be opposed to doing another summertime walkthrough once more amenities become available to kind of have another review there too.
And also to hear from the community, maybe, they're, surveying the community, so we can get input that the park is working as it's supposed to be, this new park.
Christine?
I'm a little bit concerned about these ball fields opening they seem like this little mirage in the middle of a construction site, and they're still very hesitant to tell us how people would get there. And yeah, is there going to be water there? Who will have access? How is it just for people playing ball, or who else can go on these ball fields? I just, they're great, they're opening these ball fields, but I think when they closed the big field on Houston Street, they also took a lot of esplanade away. And yeah, I would just really like to see a little bit more detail, and thinking about what they could really open to us and how all of that will feel.
Yeah, I know that's something that Tony had a question about as well. So I'm actually drafting something to talk about what the access points will look like once those other two fields open in May. So that'll be something that we can talk about as well. Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the commenting thing about the boathouse, and because I'm a bit confused as to, so we did get, the initial letter. The letter basically said, oh, things unstable, we need to do this, blah, 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 blah. But I guess my question is, and maybe I should have asked this to Desiree, is that when they do come out with their, interpretation or study or whatever they're doing to determine what the next step is that when we're going to be allowed to comment again, or is that just a fait accompli of like, this is what we're doing? Because part of the reason I asked like who are the consultant parties is because I feel like the public isn't going to be allowed to comment, and maybe there's a way that the public can feed their comments to the organizations that are consultant parties, if there's time to do so. And I don't know, Christine, if you're still on, looks like you might have dropped. Oh, no, you're on. Christine, were you able to get added as a consulting party?
Yes, we were able to be added to a consulting party. But how I understand this analysis, it's really an analysis that is presented to SHPO that really is very much focused on the uniqueness of this historic building. I don't think that this analysis is really going to provide, ways forward to really replace the role of the building that it played in the park and the uses for programming. I think that that is not really what they're looking at in this analysis, but I could be wrong, but that's how I read it.
And when you all were, because I'm not 100% familiar with the process, so you all have been, or not all you all, but some of you have been added as consulting parties. When you were notified of this, was that all were you given an opportunity at that point to provide some sort of feedback or comment that would guide what the analysis was?
I would have to go back to the initial email that we got, but yeah, so we got an initial email that basically said like, here's the plan, here's how we're moving forward. If you have any questions, please, get back to us, kind of thing. Okay. And I know that Lesby submitted some questions and comments. We did not. We always sort of piggyback on what Lesby does.
So really the question is, okay, once they come back with this determination, is that when will you all as consulting parties have opportunity to comment on that? And if so, is there a way for you, or is there time to allow for public comment to come through these organizations?
Yeah. Okay. Although I would ask that second part to Desiree, because then they'll probably say no. Let's just do that second part on the DL.
Okay, definitely. Diane and then Catherine.
Yeah, I agree with that plan that you guys just laid out. organizing ourselves quietly to give plenty of public feedback to the consulting parties. Lesby knows about the CAG. Lesby has presented at the CAG on behalf of other, historic structures that are, the tennis house and the track house, when they were making a last ditch effort to save those buildings. And so, I hope that, we'll be able to make our voices heard that way. And I remember at one point we were told that there would be a 30-day comment period once the report was released. So I am assuming that sometime around the end of February, that's when it will be finished. And then sometime around the end of March is when the comment period will close. So I think we would have to move fairly quickly in March to get any feedback organized and where it needs to be. And probably the sooner the better, but Lesby might be able to advise us on that as well.
And I asked for the list of all of the consulting parties, but I'm not sure if that's something that was also in the documentation, those of you who are on the list received, like the entire list?
No.
Yeah, it's on the CC. I'm gonna try to see if I can find it while we're still on the call.
Okay. Catherine?
Yeah, I guess I'm just piling on this about the public comment or when the public can comment, because I know a lot of the community is very upset about the fireboat house because this was one thing that was really promised to them in the very early stages where people were really upset about the park being destroyed, but at least the general attitude was that this was important, at least this would be saved and this would be done for the community. And I know that speaking with a number of the elected officials, especially like council members, they're very concerned about this. So I was also concerned about getting some real input that could actually get some movement rather than it being a fait accompli and everyone gets to talk and then, City Hall goes ahead and does what it wants to do in the first place. So we'd like to know that we'll actually have some kind of input.
I mean, based on what Desiree says, it looks like there isn't, but we're going to figure out how we could do the workaround. I definitely think having a list of who the consulting parties are, I think will be important for us to figure,
Right. But can I just point out that not letting the public weigh in on this is why there are some hard feelings in the community. And I don't think that's probably the best way to proceed.
No, absolutely.
Tara, if you give me the ability to share my screen, I can show you what we got.
Sure. All right.
I also just dug it out and emailed it to everyone.
Oh, awesome. So this is who the initial notice went to. So at this point, Lower East Side Ecology Center wasn't on as a consulting party yet, or else they would be on this list.
All right. So it's really Lesby, Friends of Corlears, so in terms of like local,
Yeah.
and LESEC, and then it looks like MAS is on here, and Landmarks Conservancy, but I think the local organizations are definitely more important here. All right. And Christine forwarded this to the group, so this is good as well.
So if I can figure out how to stop sharing, I'll do that in a second.
I'm wondering if I can kick it off. I can stop it for you if you'd like. Oh no, there you go.
I got it.
Okay. All right. So I mean, we are making the assumption that it'll be within the next few weeks that they'll respond with this determination. Then folks will have 30 days, but I will get clarification from Desiree after today's meeting as far as what the next steps are. And it looks like, Friends of Corlears, Hook, LESEC, and Lesby are going to be really the funnels by which the public can get opportunities to provide feedback. Christine?
Sorry, I didn't want to you seem to be on a roll. No, the other thing that I wanted to share is that we're working with the elected officials the council member together with state elected officials. And there is a press conference that is being planned for March 1st. That's next Friday at 10:30. And I just wanted to make people aware of that. The local officials have written a letter to in protest and or express their concerns, just like we have basically from the CAG. And so this press conference is basically happening on next Friday. And if people are available, you should come by.
What time was it?
10:30.
Thank you.
Is that City Hall?
No, at Corliss Hook Park. And I'm sorry, Michael, I wanted to reach out to you, but I haven't yet, but I hope that's okay with you.
Honey, it ain't my park. You can do whatever you want with it.
Well, you know,
Friend of the park, though. No.
yeah, I think it would be common courtesy. I think having the press conference like along actually Cherry Street on just the walkway next to Corliss, because it affords a really nice backdrop of the fireboat house standing.
Do you need anything like as far as like we have a one of those like rollable speakers that has a microphone attached to it that we use for some of our events? Would that be helpful to you, or do you have your own setup?
Yeah, let's coordinate offline.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then Christine, if there's anything in terms of like a larger communication that's going out, if you could send that to us, we can make sure that the other CAG members are made aware.
Okay. Yeah.
So going back to the idea of a walkthrough, it looks like I think Trevor put in the chat it'd be preferred to do it later. I don't know how late, but would you all like to basically wait until the section 106 analysis comes back before we go to DDC around specific dates for this walkthrough? I mean, which still probably I mean, I think it seems like it probably would be placing us into next month.
I think for me that makes sense because then, you know, we can ask questions about the fireboat house, knowing what the plan is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's Robin that, you know, there'll have been more improvements or more building on the ball field so we can get a better sense of, you know, what they'll look like as well.
Okay. I mean, just to state, it may be, you know, it may be in the next few weeks. If we are waiting for that, because I don't think there is a time. I mean, there's not a time limit on what their next step is once they put that determination. I guess there's 30 days for comment, but clearly they're not going to necessarily move forward within that period, but we would want to try to schedule it sooner than later. So it may be sometime in March or early April, depending on when the determination comes back. So that's something that I will let Desiree and Parks know. Again, I'm in the process of drafting something with regard to Tony's concerns around the ball field, specifically the access to Corliers Hook, and also access to fields 1 and 2 when they reopen in May. And then also the permitting process in terms of who gets priority as far as community. So all of that was already in process because I talked to Tony before the meeting, and thanks for Tony for attending today. I'm not sure if there are any other outstanding items, but here's an opportunity if anyone has anything else. Anyone else? Does everyone get 59 minutes back?
Woohoo!
I think we do.
All right. Okay. So again, next steps, I will be sending some communication out to Desiree and Parks with regard to the fireboat house, our walkthrough, and the ball fields. And yeah, and then we will, anything in the interim, please reach out to Paula and I, and we will, anything that we receive in the interim, we'll send back to you all. And I guess we will be in communication by email, and then I will see you next month.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tara.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tara.
Tara,
Thanks,
thank you.
everyone. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Ciao.